Hi, coming up on this video, we're going to talk about how to break down a lake that you've never been on using your Humminbird and Lakemaster equipment. I'll show you very efficient ways and how to maximize these electronics to help you break down a lake and get to fish quick. I also would recommend using this system for pre-fishing for a tournament. If you're pre-fishing, oftentimes you don't want to be catching fish because those are fish you won't catch during a tournament. So this system can help you to pre-fish as well.
All right, so here I am out on the lake, and I'm going to be using a Solix for this, but everything that I'm going to show you on the Solix you can do on the Humminbird, or I'm sorry, on the Helix. You just have to do it a little different. You know, this is touch screen and whatnot. So you can see I've got a 4 screen. And I do this, and you'll see as I start to scan why I want the 4. But I've got up here the map, side imaging here, I've got the 2D, and then the down imaging. And I'm going to use all 4 of these screens to help me. And then a critical part of this is to have a current Lakemaster map. I'm in Wisconsin right now, so I've got version 6.0. I'm going to pop that in. And if you look in that upper left-hand corner of the screen, I'm just seeing the basic outline of the map, and I'm not seeing much detail. So as soon as I pop this in, you can see what's going to happen. Okay, so with this map in, I'm getting a lot of detail, and as I zoom in, this is a HD map, and so these are 1 foot intervals. Now you can see I've got a few waypoints out here already, but I'll show you how to create those. But the first thing I want to do is make sure that the depth is correct. So right now we're in 7 feet of water-ish. So I'm going to zoom in, and I want to see if the contours are correct. So zooming in, it's showing I'm at 28. So it looks like it's pretty good. So I don't have to do anything. But if I did, I would go to the menu, and I go to the water level offset. Some of you might fish impoundments where they draw the water down, or maybe you're in a flooding year or a low shallow water year, and so you're going to have to adjust that to make sure that that's correct. So that's the first thing I always do when I'm on a new body of water. Alright, next what I need to do is start. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm on a new body of water, and I don't want to ruin my propeller or get into any kind of danger. So what I'm going to do is go to these Humminbird settings, and I'm going to do the shallow water right here, shallow water, and I'm going to set that to, let's say, 5 feet, somewhere in 4 to 5 feet. I think if I go to 5 feet, I'm going to be pretty safe that anytime I'm in this red zone here in the lake, that I need to be careful. And certainly don't want to be running at full speed in any of those red zones. So that's the first thing I do, is get that set. Okay, so it's shallow water. Again, set that to 5 is what I'm going to do. Alright, next I'm going to start scanning and try to figure out at what depth these weeds grow in this lake. This is a northern Wisconsin lake. It's very clear. If I zoom out in the map, you'll see lots of points. So the lake is not a dish bowl type lake. I see lots of points and things. So I'm just going to start scanning around. Now before I start scanning around, I do want to make sure that all my settings are good. So if I go to the 2D, for instance, and I'll just do this for the 2D, but I'll do the same thing for all 3 of these windows. I'm going to dial up my sensitivity until it starts to kind of wash out. So you can see I'm getting a lot of debris, plankton. This might be an insect hatch, hard to say. So that started happening around 7 or 8. So I'm going to dial this back now a little bit. I don't mind seeing some of the insects and whatnot, but I don't want it something like this where it's just all junk. So for this lake, I'm going to go to about 6. I'm still seeing some things, but by dialing it back, maybe 5 even, By dialing it back, I'll still see some bait fish, but usually if something's going to show up, it's going to be bigger. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing with the contrast. Contrast, I dial it up, and there seems to be a delay on the Solix. When I dial that up, you can see it took a while to catch up. So let me dial it back to 17 and let it catch up. And I think I need to come back a little bit. There we go. I'd say, no, probably about 15-ish right there. That's pretty good. And then I'll do the same thing for the down imaging, and I'll do the same thing for the side imaging. The only difference with the side imaging is that you need to be moving. So right now I'm not moving, so I'm going to show you how to do that one. So give me just 1 second to start the engine, and we'll get into some weed. Okay, so I'm moving right now, and what you want to do on your side imaging is freeze the image so that you can fine-tune your settings. So I'm coming up on the tip of an island. I'll see if we have any kind of a point on there. Maybe there'll be some weeds, we'll find out. So give me just a second to get up there. And again, I'm going to teach you how to do this fast, and we're going to be moving the boat along at a pretty good clip, probably about 5 miles an hour, as we scan for structure and scan for bait fish and scan for weeds. So again, for those of you that aren't familiar, the whiter this is, that means that that's a hard return, so that's going to be rock. If it's washed out like this, that's muck. So here we can see we're coming up on this point. It's coming up pretty quick. And these are rocks, so I'm going to freeze this right here. Okay, and I'll turn off the engine. Alright, I'm not going to put a waypoint on there, but I froze the screen. So now I go to my menu, and I can adjust the sensitivity and the contrast and fine-tune this. Now this is looking like I've got it fine-tuned pretty good already, but I'll just go through that process again. I'll keep cranking up the sensitivity, and now it's washing out. That's not good, so now I'm going to back it off a little bit. I'd say for today on this lake, I'd say 18, 17, I'd say actually 16 looks really good. Contrast, do the same thing. I kind of crank it up and let it wash out. Again, there's a slight delay, so you just got to be patient with that. So you can see it's washing out now, so back it off a little bit. That's 17, 16, I think I'm going to go down one more, 15. So this is a pretty clear picture right there. Now here's a key thing for this technique of what we're going to do for breaking down the lake is the chart speed. And a lot of people don't understand this, but I'm going to be driving probably 5 miles an hour because I want to cover lots of water and as quickly as I can break down this lake. So I want the chart speed to be a little bit faster than your boat speed so that it's keeping up and giving me very quick returns. So I'm going to put this at 7, maybe even 8, and then we'll start scanning. Okay, so let's start scanning. My next goal is let's find out where the weeds grow. You know, are they coming out of 4 foot of water, or are they growing out of 10 foot of water, or what? I want to know the depth that the weeds grow from. So let's do that now. Alright, so you can see I'm going about 4.7, close to 5 miles an hour. I'm coming up on a structure here, and I can see weeds off to my left, but I want to get right on them and see where they're growing. And I can see some bait fish. There we go. So those weeds are growing at about 10 foot water. So I'm going to repeat this process in several places around the lake until I start to really get a picture. So let me continue scanning. There's a nice boulder right there. This piece of structure is already looking very good. It's definitely a place I'm going to come back and try to fish because I'm marking fish. Those could be walleye. But let's focus on the weeds right now. Alright, so you can see I'm coming up on a sharp break. I've got kind of a hard bottom. I believe that's probably sand, maybe rock, but I'm not seeing boulders. But again, what I'm curious about is the weed growth. So I'm seeing weeds over there to the far right on my side imaging. I've got my side imaging set at 70 feet. Oh, there's some weeds growing at 16 feet. Actually, those could be fish. But right there, I'd say about 12 feet, those weeds started, and now I just came off the tip. So here's the point that I just went over, so you can see it on all three of these views. So I've got another point coming up here, underwater point, and again, I'm going pretty fast, going 5 miles an hour, and my main focus right now is weed growth. So there's nothing at the 17, 18, 19 depth. There's a fish right there, but it doesn't show up much on the down imaging, so that's probably pretty little. Okay, so we're going to come up into weeds, and again, boom, 12 feet, maybe 13 feet. So I'm starting to see that consistency around the lake. So I'm going to shut down, and I'll show you what you do with that piece of information. And this is one of the beauties of the Lakemaster map. So I'm going to go back to my menu. I've determined the depth of the weeds. So now I go to Humminbird settings, and I'm going to toggle down, and I'm going to set the highlight range to, let's do 5 feet, and then my depth highlight I'm going to put to 7 feet. Okay, 7 feet, and we should see this redraw. So now all of a sudden everything's green within the range of 5 feet above 7 feet, which means 12, and 5 feet lower, which takes me all the way down to 2 feet. So now if I zoom out, let's get rid of that. If I zoom out on this map, it starts to draw the picture of what's going on around this lake. So anything that's in this bright lime green is going to be 12 foot or less. Anything that's red is 5 foot or less. And so now I've got a pretty good idea of some really neat places to fish, these long underwater points. It's early summer. These fish should have moved out of the shallows. The spawn is way over. If I were fishing during the spawn, I'd be focusing on some of these flats, these that are all green like this. I wouldn't be out here in this mid-lake structure. So now I've got to spend the next, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, scanning lots of these different areas and dropping waypoints, and I'll show you how you do that. So to get everything set up and figure out the weed depth, that probably took me, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 minutes. So again, I'm trying to get on fish quickly, as quickly as I can. So it's worth devoting those 5 minutes to get everything dialed in so that you know you're seeing good detail. And now it's just a matter of scanning several points, several different areas. I'm looking for weed rock combinations. I'm looking for nice points near deep water and things like that. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to put a waypoint in, and I'm coming up on a underwater point that's surrounded by deep water. We're in 20 plus feet of water. Again, I'm going along pretty fast. I am seeing some fish out here suspended, small bait fish. I'm not seeing the bigger predator fish underneath that, so I'm not going to mark that at all, but there are fish out here in the basin. So that's, again, this is a piece of the puzzle to help me figure out what's going on. Oh, there are a few fish. I'm guessing those are probably walleye. All right, so we're starting to come up on the side imaging to the left. I'm seeing a hard bottom return. What I'm going to do, the map is showing where this point is. I'm going to zoom in a little. There we go. But I want to determine exactly where those weeds end, and I'm going to put a waypoint there. So as soon as I start seeing the weeds, I'm going to stop this and put it down a waypoint. I should be coming up on it pretty soon. And again, it's not red, so I know I'm not going to put myself in danger. So here comes again a bright return. Okay, red return. So these are confirming that there's rock down there. It's a hard bottom, and right there are the weeds. Okay, so I'm going to do it on this one, and on a Solix you just press this, you put waypoint, and then I can toggle through here to figure out if I want a rock, I want a fish. So I just toggle through these, and I'll figure out which icon I want, and I'll mark it with a green, so that helps me determine that it's weeds. And then for right now, I'll just use this fish icon, and that's that simple. I just put down a waypoint, and there it is. You can see the green determined this weed. So now I know very easily where that weed point ends. Again, here's a lot of fish down there. So you can see the waypoint I put in. I'm headed towards another underwater point. But there's a lot of fish kind of off the weeds. So I may not be fishing the weeds as much as I first thought I might. So again, just spending an hour scanning can help you key in and zone in where you want to start actually fishing. So here I come in. Let me zoom in a little bit. There's the weeds. Oh boy, that came up. It's a weed rock combination. I'm going to see where it drops off. Very, very weedy. And then boom, it's going to drop. And I'm going to pretty much put a waypoint at the end of that as well. So I'll make it green. And there we go. And so you can see the waypoint there, and I can also see it there. Alright, so as you find things on the lake, you might find interesting areas, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit if you can see this. I'm doing what I call mowing the lawn, and I found something interesting here, and so I went back and forth several times. So let me go back to my 4 screen setup, and I'll show you what I found. Now I'm going to drive a little bit slower so I can get more detail. But there's a whole series of what looks like fish cribs here. I'm in fairly deep water, 22 feet. And we're going to come across these pretty soon. I did not mark any waypoints yet, but I just want to show you the technique of mowing the lawn. You might do this in a big expansive area where you're making a grid, and you might even go back and forth the opposite direction too, perpendicular to your original. So here's a crib, here's a crib. You've seen them on the side imaging. There they popped up on the 2D and down imaging. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cribs. You can see the shadows, so that I know they come off the bottom a decent distance. You know, that's coming up off the bottom maybe 5 feet. They're all kind of square, so I know that's not natural, that's man-made. So somebody's put some cribs in here, and I am seeing some fish. These are scattered fish. If I were a walleye fisherman, I'd probably fish this a little bit. Obviously, if you get too close into those cribs, you may get snagged up, so that's an issue. So I would probably put a waypoint on each and every single crib. There's another one, there's another one. I mean, there's a lot of them. There's easily a dozen cribs down here. I'm not seeing as many fish as I thought I might, so maybe these fish aren't set up here yet. But again, just another technique to help you cover water fast and figure out what's going on in the lake. Okay, so let's recap. So here are the keys to this. You want to have the 4 screens so you can see everything that's going on right at your fingertips, and you want to get your settings adjusted. That's key. Number 2, you want to move fast. And I'm not going to waste my time scanning the entire lake, but I'm going to hit a dozen points. I'm going to hit a dozen back bays, things like that. I'm going to look at structure that looks to me like where fish would be holding. I'm going to pay attention to the weed depth. I'm going to pay attention to rock. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and fish maybe 5 to 8 of those key spots that look good. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. So what I do is I start off with moving baits. I'll try some moving baits, trying to see if there's any fish active in those spots. If I find nothing, I'll go back to the exact same spots with bottom bouncing, dragging a jig or something on the bottom, finesse technique. If I still don't get bit on those spots, then I can pretty much eliminate that kind of structure right away. And now I start moving back into the bays or maybe deep into the weeds. Maybe these fish are still up really shallow. And I just start this process. I try to make it as scientific as possible. And you can really break down a lake in a matter of an hour, maybe 2 hours, and have a really good idea of what you're going to do. Again, if I'm pre-fishing for a tournament, this is the way I do it. I don't spend a whole lot of time fishing. I might fish a little bit just to confirm what I am suspecting, but I don't want to be catching too many fish. I might clip a hook or bend a hook in just to see if the fish are active. So hopefully this helps. Again, any lake you go to, this is a good strategy. And if you're going to a huge, massive lake, just try to break down one area of the lake. It's going to be too much to break down a massive, 10,000 acre lake or bigger in just an hour. Hope this helps, and thanks for watching.